What's good, everybody? It's your brother Mad Black, the most dangerous and most toxic black man on the internet, and I am black up in your face again with some more pro black commentary. I've always noticed a lot of rhetoric surrounding the manosphere, and even the women who support the manosphere will agree with this type of rhetoric where they make it seem as if a woman reaches a certain age, then she is no longer valuable, or her value goes down, or she's not as attractive as she was when she was younger, or, you know, just a lot of, ageism within, the manosphere rhetoric. And while I can understand some of it, I can understand where some of that stuff might come from, and even I make my comments or jokes about women when they get older and they're still acting in a very immature and ridiculous manner, or they're still holding on to a lot of nonsense or mixed up ideals that they had when they were younger, and they don't have the same value as they did when they were younger. You think they would learn by now if something is not working, but some of them, they get older and still try to hold on to the same nonsense, and it just gets worse and worse, and it looks more pathetic when it comes from an older woman. But all that aside, I take things by a case basis, and I have to honestly say, I find a mature woman to be more attractive to me. That's just my personal opinion. Now, I already know there are going to be some guys from the manosphere who hear that, or who are going to come here and say, oh, you're being a simp, or you're trying to save these hoes, or whatever nonsense they come up with. But I'm a mature man myself, and part of maturity means that little childish name calling and whatever doesn't actually bother me. Okay, I can look past that, and any little snide comments anyone might make doesn't really mean much to me. Okay, so let me explain where I'm going with this, and just by saying that when I say that I find maturity to be a little bit more attractive, even when I was younger, okay, first of all, I'm an older male now. I'm in my midlife right now, and when I was younger, in my teens and 20s, I always found women who were more mature or older than me to be more attractive. I can honestly say that I had a girlfriend my senior year of high school and my wife. Those are the only two women who I've ever been with who were my age. Everyone else has always been older than me, at least by a few years at the most. Not saying too old. I'm not saying I'm dating someone my mom's age or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. But a lot of the girls that I was ever involved with throughout my life have always been a little bit older than me. And it's because I've always thought of that maturity level, I've always appreciated more. Okay, a lot of the girls my age just didn't seem like they had their minds together. Now, as a man, obviously, I don't expect women to have, the same material things. That's not what I'm looking for in a woman. But I appreciated that the mature women had their minds together a little bit more. Like, it seemed like a lot of the girls my own age, they were pursuing a lot of things that just didn't mean a lot. Okay. And this is what I talked about earlier, where I said that if you have a mature woman or an older woman who still holds on to those immature ideas, that can be very unattractive. And that makes them seem stupid even worse than the young girls. Because at least a young girl, you can understand her being ignorant and not knowing anything, right? Because, when we're all young, we all make mistakes, or we all, look at things a certain way. And once we get some life experience, we can change. But, some people just hold on to the immature and the ridiculous, and that can make them very unattractive. But for the most part, I can say that a lot of the other girls that I knew, or that I actually liked or had a relationship with, were a lot older and more mature. And I appreciated that. Not saying that they were all perfect, okay? I understand that there are older girls out there, or girls who are older than me, who made a lot of dumb mistakes. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of that liked me when I was in college, and she was a few years ahead of me, and then she graduated, and we still kept in touch. And she made a lot of dumb mistakes. Okay, she gave the cookies to some guy that just did her wrong, and just kind of ignored me in that regard. Like she acted like she liked me, and then we would always communicate and hang out. But you know, she wanted to give her all to this dude that treated her like absolute trash. So I was like, I can't save you. Go ahead, be with him. Okay. But she would always want to try to call me and complain about him. I was like, I don't want to hear it after a while. I don't want to deal with stuff like that. But besides her, I can say the other ones were at least a lot better to be with. Okay. So, when I hear that rhetoric out there of, a woman just loses all of her value once she gets older, I just don't see it. Maybe it's just for me personally. Okay. Once again, I'm an older male now. And why would I want to? I would feel like I was lowering myself if I wanted to be with a woman who was younger than me. Okay. So God forbid, if anything ever happened to my wife, I would think I would have to find a woman at least somewhere around my age. I don't think I could date someone in their 20s. I just couldn't do it. Okay. Because what am I going to do with a girl like that? And other than, for you guys out there that just have these odd sexual fantasies about younger women, outside of that, what am I going to do with them? Okay. It just doesn't seem like a natural relationship could bud with someone like that. There would always be that generation gap. I don't know what I could even talk with a younger girl about. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's got to be more than just the sex, because otherwise you're just sitting there talking to a child the whole time, and they're into something completely different than you are. Even though I'm someone who is well versed in technology these days, I'm someone who, kind of keeps his ear to the street when it comes to current events and politics and whatnot. But, young girls are not going to want to talk about stuff like that. Their minds are on things that are completely frivolous. So what kind of relationship am I actually going to have with this person? Now, I understand there are some men out there that just want to, they don't have a family of their own. So they want to get a younger woman to, have their children and raise their children, right? I can understand that somewhat, but even that gets into weird territory sometimes, because I'm just going to be honest with you. This is my personal experience. All of the kids that I knew who came from relationships like that. So when I went to private school, I knew a lot of kids who came from those types of relationships where the dad was really old and the mother was young, or from some foreign country or whatever. Those were the weird kids in class. This has just been my personal opinion and what I've observed. I remember one kid in particular. I'm not going to say his name, but he was a strange one. Okay, I remember one time, like in middle school, we were doing some science project, and he completely bungled the project so badly, and the teacher got on him and was kind of like, it was bad. It was funny at the time. Like, when I think back on it, I remember all the boys in the class trying not to laugh at it and not laugh at him. But when I think back on it, just to think about how harshly this adult teacher was on him for that, like, you couldn't get away with that today. You would be in trouble. You would be fired. But she went in on him and, called him everything but dumb and retarded. Okay. And I remember that, and I remember we were all, cracking up about it back then, but nowadays you couldn't get away with that. But he was a strange individual, I must say that. And I remember one of our friends, like, went over his house and just was like, had to get out of there, and came back to tell us on Monday of just how strange that household was. And I was like, so that's one experience, but then there are others where, like, even now when I see some of the kids in my daughter's class who come from those types of relationships where there's an older male and a young woman. Like there's this one guy, he's older white male, and his wife is from the Philippines, and she's a lot younger. And he met her while he was traveling over there, and their child is weird. Okay, just a strange child, and I don't know. I just don't know. Like it just seems like the kids are a little bit not as adjusted as they should be. That's just my opinion and what I've observed from these types of relationships. So, if you're one of those guys who thinks you're going to get a young girl and have children with them, you got to make sure that, you put something into these kids. Don't just depend on this young girl to raise them on their own and you just go to work or do whatever. You better put some input in there to make sure this child can turn out somewhat normal. But yeah, once again, for me, the maturity is something that I find more attractive in the more the way a woman acts. And even in looks, there are women out there who are very attractive, as they get older. If I can just give some examples, like I never found the singer Maya to be attractive at all when I was younger. And, she's around my age, but I never thought she was cute. I thought she just had kind of like a big head and a little skinny body. She was like a lollipop back in the day. Now she looks more attractive. I think she's kind of grown into her looks. I think she looks a lot better now. Other women like Ashante, once again, someone who's actually my age, I think she looks better now. I see a lot of people criticizing her, saying like she's, even though she looks good, she's by herself and she never had any kids. She's not married. Something must be wrong with her, but she looks good now. I can't say she doesn't look good. Another woman like Kelly Rowland. Now, I thought Kelly Rowland was the cutest one in Destiny's Child back in the day. And she's even more attractive now. I think she's grown into her womanhood very gracefully. I think she looks way better now than she did back then. And like I said, I thought she was cute back then. But now she's grown into a woman and she looks amazing. And, I think there are a lot of women out there like that. Like I recently did some consulting with some women about just content creation and, self-publishing. And, a lot of the women, they were my age or older, and they were all very attractive black women. And like I said, I was nervous about doing this consulting at first, but once I got there and realized these were all women around my age, I felt a lot more comfortable, teaching them and instructing them because we had something in common, just being around the same age. And I felt a lot more comfortable there than I would probably if I was with some women who were maybe from my parents' generation or a lot younger, like in their 20s or early 30s. I might not have been as comfortable or as effective in my teaching and instruction if I wasn't around people my own age. So I'm just giving this out as just trying to give a different perspective out there as far as relationships go. If, like I said before, God forbid something happened to my wife, I would have to find someone my age or around the same age. I could not date someone who was younger. I just don't see anything positive coming out of a relationship like that for me personally. Now for you, it might be completely different. Maybe you are more linked in the mind with someone who's younger. I didn't want to call you immature, but maybe you would find some sort of camaraderie with someone who is a lot younger than you. Now this can come off as pathetic if you're an older male trying to, still trying to hang with young folks, but I don't know what your situation is. I'm just saying for me personally, I'd rather have someone more mature. Once again, I've always dated women who are older than me and girls who are a little bit older than me, and I've always found that to be more attractive. And the maturity in a woman is something that is deeply attracted to me even now. And my wife is always presenting herself as more mature and upstanding, so I think that's what the attraction is to her as well. But she and I just happen to be the same age. So, you folks can let me know how you feel about it in the comments section. I just don't like painting all women or all men with one brushstroke when it comes to these relationship discussions online. And sometimes I think guys in the manosphere or women in these relationship talks or women who support the manosphere, sometimes I think they just, regurgitate the same thing and say the same thing, but that doesn't really reflect actual experience. Anyway, Mad Black, and I will be back on my foot on these devil's back.